Welcome back to The United States Inadvertently Causes Problems for Itself in the Future, brought to you by Lockheed Martin and the Cash App. Today we will be discussing the Soviet-Afghan War and the far-reaching consequences the conflict has had. My name is Joseph, and today joining me is Peter, Creighton, and Lorena.
Hi everyone.
Hey everybody.
Howdy.
So guys, let's talk Soviet-Afghan War. Creighton, you want to give us a background?
Alright, so starting in December of 1979 and lasting until February of 1985, the Soviet-Afghan War was a guerrilla conflict waged by U.S.-backed insurgents, the Mujahideen, against the Soviet occupying forces and the Soviet-backed Afghan government.
The war devastated the country with hundreds of thousands of combat members being killed and estimates totaling almost 2 million Afghan civilians being killed.
All right, so there are multiple schools of thought when it comes to the Soviet-Afghan War, and the constructivist approach is a widely discussed topic. Would anyone like to give their insight into the constructivist view?
Sure, I can do that. So the Soviet Union was a communist government, while the U.S. was a democratic government, making them on opposite sides of the conflict in Afghanistan. Constructivism is the idea that interactions between states shape their goals and views of each other. So 30 years of nuclear standoff between the Soviet Union and the U.S. had created tensions between the two states. When the Soviet Union supported the communist regime in Afghanistan and the U.S. supported the rebels trying to overthrow that regime, it started a proxy war of the Cold War.
So international politics were in a bipolar state, with the U.S. and the Soviet Union being the dominant and conflicting powers. So when the Soviet Union started to exert their power on Afghanistan to ensure that their government was backed by them, the U.S.'s paranoia of the Soviet Union gaining too much control of the countries surrounding Afghanistan and Southeast Asia caused them to take action.
And this kind of ties into the offense-defense balance, which is proposed by the realists. And this can be seen because the Soviets had a lot of influence in Afghanistan since the end of the Second World War. And they were kind of concerned about losing their buffer zone between the USSR and the allied countries that involve the United States and many other post-World War II countries. And the Soviet Union kind of saw that by taking Afghanistan as a country, that they can get an upper hand and expand their influence, kind of tying back to the domino theory, in which if one country will fall to communism, the surrounding countries that border that area will also fall to communism, which the U.S. kind of saw as a major concern. And they had to eliminate the communist government as a threat from Afghanistan.
So Joseph, you mentioned you read the European Scientific Journal explaining the realist view on the Soviet-Afghan War. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Political realism is a study in international politics where all states will look after their own self-interests. So basically, that the Soviet Union was actually looking for its own interest in establishing a communist government was seen as a threat by the United States, who also wanted to prevent the start of communism in Afghanistan. So when the U.S. and Afghanistan clashed, the information security features with militaries and weaponry caused major issues within the country. And a realist solution to the Soviet-Afghan War was that we partitioned the state of Afghanistan to ensure that both parties kind of get what they want and that they really don't necessarily have to deal with issues that result from each other's conflicts, similar to what we did with North and South Korea.
All right, so thank you, Joseph, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in today. Next week we'll be discussing the Bay of Pigs and how the U.S. botched that one too. Enjoy the rest of your day.